just gonna go down in time. This is an makes it happen.
Great stop there. Oh, Dicey.
Oh my God, J-Mo, the champion of this one.
Oh, Asuna! He gets the triple off the rocket as the full.
And good afternoon, gamers. It's time for day 2 of VCT Challengers Stage 1, Week 2. My name is Bach. Joining me on the broadcast is my humble compadre from up north, Vansili, who's, showing off that beautiful fresh cut he gave himself. It's actually starting to fill in quite nicely. He's looking good there.
Told myself I could wait like 2 weeks and then we could actually take off the hat, but don't ask me to turn around. I think it's still a mess back there.
Well, I'll be honest, Vansili, when you turn around, I'm not looking at the hair, baby.
Just give me time to get back to the gym and get my squats in, then I'll be less shy about it.
Well, it's been an interesting first day. I felt like, that first day kind of stretched out a little bit as well, as we had some really close games on the main stream. The B stream, however, wrapped up pretty quickly. But if you're kind of curious how things work here for VCT, how this is going to shape up, what Challengers means in the overall scope, we do have a video featuring the likes of Rivington that'll explain things. Let's take a look.
Welcome to the VALORANT Champions Tour, a year-long tournament circuit featuring the best players and teams from all over the world, culminating in a global championship event, VALORANT Champions. Each stage begins with Challengers, where teams compete in regional tournaments for a place at Masters. Teams who compete in Masters events will earn points that help them qualify for Champions. And Champions is where the best teams from around the world compete on a global stage, where the art of greatness is on full display. And one team will be crowned 2021 VALORANT Champions.
Ooh, the idea of possibly getting to see a global VALORANT event is certainly exciting, especially considering that long topic that's been going on in the background here. Who's better, North America and Europe? And then also seeing those fringe regions that people don't talk as much about when you're talking about the best in the world, looking specifically at like Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia in general.
Brazil, too. Even at that point, everybody's sleeping on, for example, the game lenders and the Furia of Brazil, where everybody's coining now Brazil being that region that's going to be so aggressive versus NA's playstyle. So the grand stage is going to be super exciting. I mean, what's more exciting is now after watching this video, we're one step closer of determining who's going to make it into the Masters here, Bud.
Yeah, and speaking of those teams, we can take a look at how things kind of shaped up yesterday so we can appreciate how we've gotten here to today. To kick things off, the B stream had Xset versus Envy, and to say that was a long series would certainly be facetious, as Envy made quick work of Xset, especially in that first map, as they picked up the win 13-1 over them. And then they went on to map 2, 13-7. That knocked Xset down into the lower match. You can see some clips in that lower match where they faced off against FaZe. FaZe got knocked down into the lower bracket as well by Sentinels after losing 13-7, 13-7. They kept it close with Sentinels on Haven initially, so it was no surprise to see FaZe pick it. And based on the way things started, it looked so good for FaZe. It was looking like they were potentially going to take that first map, but then Xset, down 8-2, turned it around and brought it back. Incredible performance from them.
I remember that. It was like 1-8 in favor of FaZe over Xset. Something was going wrong in their attack, although Xset never changed their composition going into this matchup. But I noticed that only having one flash, maybe it could have been the deterrence of how they were executing versus FaZe. But you cannot discredit FaZe on top of that, though. Corey and Zachary went lights out on that first map. They played their hearts out, and it looked very good for FaZe on that side, but somehow they just unfortunately crumbled on their attacker side. When we looked at Vine, it was still pretty close overall, but Xset being able to take that upper hand was very good. But you did mention here that 2-0 victory for Envy over Xset. when people are saying, hey, don't sleep on Exit, don't sleep on Immortals, don't sleep on LG, you would have expected maybe a closer matchup versus Envy, but Envy definitely comes back into the form that we know Envy for, where they're so good until they make it into the big stage trying to qualify, and it just falls short. So it's going to be on the A stream for that matchup, but it's going to be the 9th time that Envy is going to face off versus Sentinels, and we hope that 9th time's a charm pretty much at this point for Envy.
Yeah, you keep wanting to see that team break through because there was promise when we look back at how this team played early on. A lot of people said, don't sleep on Envy. This team is going to be the next big thing.
Correct.
And everyone thought that would be true even going back to First Strike, but it didn't really work out that way. As again, Sentinels has had their number pretty consistently in some of these matchups that they faced off against them in. So we do have that going live on the main stream, but on the B stream, we're going to be jumping into a different matchup, and that's going to be IMT versus LG, and you can see how they got here. Gen G actually lost to Immortals, so we'll update that and get that fixed. Gen G got 2-0'd by Immortals, and it was actually a little bit closer on map 2. Map 1 was a bit strong there for IMT, 13-6, 13-9 in map number 2. And then 100 Thieves LG, where 100 Thieves lost to LG 2-1, was an absolute banger of a match. So 100 Thieves picked up a big win on Ascent, 13-6. It goes to Icebox. No surprise there. LG's been big fans of the map. 13-10 victory for them, and then it goes to that third and final map of Bind, and it's ultimately LG who turns on big time on the attacking side. They lost the pistol to 100 Thieves, and then they won 7 straight rounds on the attacking side to cap off that map. And a lot of that heroics for LG was off the back of a strong performance from our boy Moose, who's one of the more recent additions to that roster.
Definitely. Moose was one that stepped up on Bind, had a nice 4K clutch pretty much on one of the rounds, and had a backstab 3K kill with a stinger on, I think it was a 3 versus 2, to allow for LG to get 2 rounds out of the rounds that they had here on the attack. Overall, though, we'll talk a little bit about the agent composition once we get into the face-to-face between Immortals and LG, but it did look so close. I think it was looking to be a dominating one-sided series for 100 Thieves, especially when they're able to dominate LG so much on the first map, 13-6. But Icebox changed things around. I had a feeling it was going to be more of that lurk play from Nitro and Steel to be able to win those rounds, and quite easily for 100 Thieves, but LG played tremendously well, and Bind, we know the story. We'll talk about it a little bit again in that head-to-head. But I guess we'll also look at the lower brackets to see where we're at, too, once we had those team lose. So, unfortunately, we already have FaZe and Gen G that gets knocked out here from the Challengers 2 stage. The good news for them is that they go straight into the Challengers 3. So no more gauntlets for these 2 teams. They're going to be able to wait for 4 other teams that's going to have to qualify through the open bracket number 3. But you're thinking about the TSM, the Cloud9 Blue, the T1, NRG, and Box. There's just so many teams right now that still have yet to qualify or make it to the stage into Challengers 3 that it's still not going to be an easy route for these 2 teams.
Everyone, though, wants to get it out of the way.
100%.
They just want to qualify now. Like, sure, it's nice that they get a second opportunity, a second lease on life, but they desperately want to just get through this and get to that next point. Now, IMT LG, this is actually a rematch of a match from the last closed qualifier at a similar point in the bracket. It was actually further on. That was the upper final, so this is upper semis. Last time it was the upper final. You and I covered that game, and it ended up being a very solid game where we thought it might have been a little bit closer, and despite the fact that it goes 3 maps, it wasn't necessarily always close. That first map was a bit of a blowout in favor of IMT. LG clapped back on map 2, takes us to a third map where it was finally that very close battle. I think that right now, these are 2 teams that a lot of people are watching in NA Valorant. More recently making roster changes, shaping things up, and suddenly, like, coming out on 2021 with big gains, big wins. LG obviously winning the Nerd Street Gamers Winter Championships, beating Sentinels in a best-of-5 grand finals. That was huge. Not a lot of people saw that one coming. And I think that LG in general has been stepping up over the last couple of months, but more specifically since the year started. And then Immortals making a roster change as well to bring in Nature and Chemicals more recently, and things are certainly working out for them. We can actually take a look at those rosters here in just a second so you can see who's going to be on what side, just in case you aren't familiar with these team rosters, because they are a little bit different than what people might remember.
Yeah, and when you're looking at the roster of Immortals, I remember seeing the interview talking to Chemicals, and we also had Packing 10 that also had a small conversation, explain how these two players came into the mix, and everybody was thinking about Nature first. And then they started scouting Chemicals, trying to see how he was playing. I think Chemicals even had a short stint. Was it with Mamamo Gaming? If not, at least in the Tier 2 scene. He was playing against Mamamo Gaming, and he had some pretty good numbers. And then suddenly, it just came out to be very, very good. And a positive aspect that Chemicals could be a good addition for Immortals. What's also good here is that when you're looking at Nature, the way that he calls for the team, there's still a lot of communication where he could adapt on the fly, because they also talk about Chemicals saying, trust me, I actually have a timing. And sometimes in these strats, you see Immortals just flip, even though they're ready to execute into a site, to just rotate back onto the other side, because Chemicals is going to be able to land some shots on rotations and also open up the site on the lurk itself. And on top of that, as a jet operator, by all means, and they're still able to come into the round. So it's very fun to see how Immortals have grown into who they are now. But on the other side, here for a Proto and the rest of, or a Proto rather, and the rest of Luminosity Gaming, they are also a very good team molding into that top 3 North American lineup. These two teams, it's going to be a clash for this matchup. The last time, as you said, Buck, they met up against each other in the upper finals of the Challengers 1. It's cool. There was no real bragging rights, because it's like, okay, we qualify into Challengers 2, and we at least secure, like, what, $10,000, I think, for that second place, at least. But now you're looking at it, it's not really about the prize pool. It's not really about the prize money. It's whoever wins this one, secures a spot into the Masters, and that's what everybody's gunning for today.
I will say this, looking at the way these two rosters actually match up against each other, what makes it such a good matchup is how similar they are.
Yes.
Like, I don't really look at Chemicals or Thief as like really strong, dedicated ops. They're both good, they're serviceable, but they're more like a flex player, which is what makes it so fun to watch that battle back and forth. And it's one thing that's also been kind of their weakness, their Achilles heel. They face off against a team like Sentinels, who has a player like Shazam, or maybe a team like TSM when you've got to face off against Wardell. They're not as proficient when it comes to the one-on-one battle with someone who's a prolific operator player in North America. But when they face off against teams like this, it creates a great dynamic. Now, that said, they've still both done pretty well against teams that do have those dedicated op players, and it's mostly through creative utility utilization and obviously kind of leveraging skills over just pure aim or the power of the op. The thing that's going to matter most in this series is going to be the map pool, and we can already make some assumptions because we know we're not going to ever see split. IMT does not like the map, and I'm pretty sure LG doesn't like the map either.
Yeah.
So that map's going to get kicked out pretty early, and LG not being big fans of Haven either. So we can pretty much assume those are going to be the bans right off the bat, just because we've seen that before. We've seen Immortals ban split in pretty much every series, except for when they played Sentinels in a best-of-5 finals in the last close qualifier, which was interesting because of how historically bad that map has been for them.
Yeah, that's why LG is no surprise for me that they banned Haven as well. They haven't been looking too hot lately, so to be able to get rid of that and also getting split out of the equation means that the remaining 3 maps, we've seen some tremendously good results for both of these teams actually on these 3 very maps, whether it's victories versus 100 Thieves, victories versus Sentinels, victories versus TSM, on either Ascent, Icebox, or Bind. These 2 teams are good on these 3 maps. It just depends now what happens in this face-to-face, this head-to-head between these 2 teams. We'll notice once we get, or unless it changes again, but there's been some changes for Immortals going to Icebox into this very event versus the Challengers 1. That meaning that we have a Viper now in the lineup for Immortals, and we also have Sage being picked by JC Stani, getting off from the Omen on this map. On LG side, nothing's really changed. Ever since the Winners' Championship, they finally removed a Proto from Cypher and put him on the Raze, where now with also the Sage combined, and I think they have the Omen in there to play with your boy Dre, then they've had some decent results, but their previous iteration was still an iteration that beat Sentinels on this map. So I think that they're still trying to find their footing. I might have to give it to Immortals on this first map, but Ascent is going to be a very fun one to watch too. Ascent, both of these teams very good, but also a bigger change for Ascent is now you have Shot Up. Going away from the duelist role, maybe sometimes as Arena, switching over now to a Breach, which still had some good results when they played against Gen G.
I will say this, one of the most exciting aspects of the game in its current state right now is the fact that we get to see so many different agent compositions.
Yes.
I'd say that the game is probably more fun to watch now than it was in the summer of last year, when you were pretty much guaranteed to see the same 5 agent compositions with like one switch maybe across all of the maps. Here we're now seeing some of that flexibility, and you're going to see that play out here with Nature going to the Viper pick, like you had mentioned when we were talking about this previously. That Viper pick is not something we see a whole lot of, but it's starting to come out on maps like Icebox. And Sage getting back into this. The more recent changes to Sage making her more viable, but also the map playing to Sage's strengths, whereas Cypher, who has been an S-tier hardlock every map agent, not going to be seen as frequently on this map because it just doesn't work the same way. So I love where the game is at currently, and I love the way that Icebox plays out. I think that if you're LG, you have to win Icebox. I think that if you're LG, you need to win this 2-0, because this is the inverse of the map pool that we saw from them last time. Last time they started on Bind, and they got walloped by IMT. Then they went to Ascent and picked up the dub before going to Icebox, which was a close game. I don't think they want to go to that third map of Bind, because I don't think it'll go well for them again, just because IMT can be so incredibly good on that map.
Yeah, not only IMT looks very good on the map, though, but LG did have a really good showing on Bind yesterday versus 100 Thieves, and that's also a change that they had in their agent composition. We could talk about that once we get into the third map, or if we get into a third map, but the biggest change was switching out Stellar into Sage instead of Omen. That really made a difference. So I think that if it still goes into a third map, we might still see a very close third map and not a one-sided matchup. But enough about the predictions and what to expect. It's now time to witness who's actually going to be able to take this first map in this best out of 3. Winning this series qualifies you into the Masters. And is it going to be Immortals or LG? We'll soon find out, as Immortals on this pistol are starting on the defense and LG on the attack, where, by the way, we're still playing on the older patch. So Frenzy's still very potent.
Yeah, same with the Stinger as well. Expect to see a whole lot of that. Reyna's going to obviously have some additional charges on Dismiss and Devour. There's the Recon Dart going in. The Frenzy actually does work out there for Thief. Took a little bit of extra energy. The heal is going to come through. Again, that's the beauty of having the Sage in play. There's a wall down. There's 2 players backside currently. Chemicals wants to go up onto that rope, but would be a bad call as there was one up there. It was Thief. Gangsta actually executes Thief. The spike will be planted. And the retake is happening as the spike goes down. Players already on the site. Nice nade coming down onto Chemicals, reducing things down to 2. Nature's got the toxic wall going up, but has to be careful. There's a player right around the corner of default box. Doesn't scare Nature at all, who goes for the leaping shot. It's going to come down to the 1v1. It's Gangsta versus a Proto, and a Proto, he may not feel as comfortable on Raze given the length of time he's played Cypher main, but he picks up the big dub here in the pistol round for LG.
And at that distance, it doesn't matter if you have a Sheriff or a Classic. He's still accurate with the headshot percentage. Very nice shot to land that 1 versus 1, but a very good retake for Immortals at least. I like the fact that you had that wall coming up, blocking actually the front side, so that you force everybody on the retake for Immortals to really fight back towards the back of the site for the retake, because the wall is going to take a while. It takes much longer to break down on pistol too. So you have great pulse plan advantages for LG after that. But Gangsta, he read it perfectly. He knew that Thief was going to come up towards the A tower, got that first kill, made the chances go into the favor of Immortals on the comeback, but at least the post plant, the distance, still comes in favor of LG. But because it comes down to a 1 versus 1, Immortals in this round going for the Stingers, and also went for a 4-man stack at the beginning. They spotted a bit of opposition towards that belt side, but as things calm down, we are also playing super passively towards the B side for Nature, and the Owl Drone from LG suggests that they want to try to attack this site.
One thing of note, the last time these two teams played on this map, Moose really struggled. Bottom performer for LG when he played against 100 Thieves the other day, top performer. The growth we've seen from Moose as a player is going to be instrumental in their success on the map. We'll see what they can do here as, again, they go for a plant. They're going to stick it inside of that venomous orb. Nature will drop to Thief. As the wall came in too, that does certainly help. Thief is going to find 2 kills with the Bulldog spray. And now it's down to 3 here for IMT, trying to come through again on the retake. Thief's found 3 kills on the round. A Proto finally peaks to make it the full house for those two. LG survived the second round, and a flawless victory means we will see a bonus round coming in of the highest possible value for LG.
Yeah, and exactly when you're looking at the plant right now, yes, he's walking into the poison cloud for Stellar for the plant, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really kill you. It decays your armor, it decays your health. Once you walk away and the debuff is gone, your health and your armor is back. So that's another detriment to not having any type of anchor sentinel like a Killjoy, for example, that Nature used to play. So you don't have a nanoswarm to prevent the spike. You're going to have to let it go unless you have some set poison snake bite, to be able to place onto the ground. I would expect later on, though, that poison cloud mixed with some rifles towards oranges to break the wall could actually help for the spam to prevent that spray, the plant. So we'll look forward to those sprays later on into the rounds once we have the full gun round coming in.
Let's see how long Thief can hold on to this Bulldog. Thief also has the ult available due to the sheer number of kills that Thief was able to convert in the first couple of rounds. Again, you're going to see that wall come through. There's a smoke coming out as well as Thief wants to go Indiana Jones. No, actually dives over top of the roof. Has to be careful. There's one back site, not prepared. Goes inside the wall. Ends up dodging the damage. A wall going up over top to allow Stellar into the site. Does result in them gaining access. It'll be Chemicals, though, with the crisp shots on the Sheriff to make this one difficult for LG. You've got a 3-on-2. The spike will be planted momentarily, but again, the hardware for IMT is not exactly fantastic. Gangsta's got a Sheriff as the dart goes through. And I believe Nature has just a classic. Does actually end up scooping up an SMG, so there's a little bit more firepower here, some extra oomph as they go and tap the spike. There's the peek coming through. Nice shots coming out from Nature. Shock darts aren't where they need to be, so Nature's able to survive a little while longer. The dink shot down onto Stellar makes this possible here, but Gangsta just can't convert. Boost survives from on high, and LG survived around. Again, that was a bonus, so they're going to be coming out of that one with a decent chunk of cash.
Great way to be holding on to that wall towards that beginning of the round for JC Stani too, right? We're looking at sometimes playing in the rank plays or when Icebox first came out, how overpowered it was to just lay those 4 blocks in a straight line through the 2 and just stack up on different sites. But this time you're seeing the potency of having the wall to funnel your opponents onto the left side of 410 or the maze wall, for those who would like to call it on different nomenclature for the names for that spot. Well done for that, but you got to love the fact that Stellar kept his at the same time too for his self boost to be able to hurt down the opponents, but they were only on a much lower buy here for Immortals. This time, though, we do have finally a full gun round with the exception of a couple of guys that probably still have their Bulldog from the previous round, but Chemicals does have the operator. He's at the truck side where a simple shoot and dash would be good enough for him to maybe land a kill or at least some information. And he does have opposition from Thief, it seems like, towards that A nest, and they're just off-timed every single time, and it seems to be that first battle, that first opposition, and their first line of information you're trying to take towards A. But it calms down for a bit. We're lurking back towards the mid side. By this time, the wall has been broken on that tube side, as we mentioned before, so this allows for eventually a split into B if they want to.
They are going to be moving in that direction as well. Well, you've got Stellar coming in from underneath too. They've got the split, but look at the presence currently here from IMT. Now the slow orb does come in, a counter slow orb coming up from JC Stani, who's stuck inside this ice, waiting for it to dissipate. There's the jumping knife toss from Thief, and now they've got Hall's control, and that flattens out the push pretty badly for IMT. Thief is in position, knows there's one around the corner, still has the knives out. It's going to be a knife duel. Who's going to win it?
Oh my god.
Neither one.
You got him in the knees, though.
Yeah, Chemicals gets hit and decides to bail, and that's the right call. You can see Gangsta's here now alone. It is a 1-on-3. It's interesting to see Gangsta still go for this while his teammate is all the way across the map.
Yeah, that turned out to be pretty much a Hidden Leaf Naruto battle. Shout out to Team Liquid with their latest drop. Really nice stuff, but in the end, you're still able to save your operator into the next round for Chemicals, but that was a very crucial kill for Thief to actually prevent any type of rotations that's going to come through the hallway at Kitchen. So very well done for that while the rest are working towards the A side. You saw how chaotic it was for the amount of frost orbs that went up into the hallway pathway and also down towards the wall of the orange side. So in the end, it just came down to those battles. We didn't see it too much because it was off screen, but the main focus was just trying to have Thief hold down that rotation to not allow Chemicals to get any type of op kills coming back to the spawn site at Snowman. So this allows LG to now have 4 rounds in a row, and off this operator, you still want to go for a buy for Immortals. It's going to be a buy where they can maybe go for a half buy into the next round with small shields and rifles, but Chemicals is signed to post up towards this B side, so exactly they can use these SMGs for more of a close range battle towards the A site for Immortals.
Shot up, spotted by the dart. On the other side, Pipes has to be careful. Some shock darts come through. Again, you've got a toxic wall up. As it starts to go down, we might see the push come through. You've got quite a bit of players built up inside A main for LG. 4 rounds to 0 as well. IMT struggling at stopping this offensive pressure that's been coming in from LG. So how do they try to stop it? They put JC Stanny up top in the tube, but it doesn't really convert well. Thief does what Thief has done before. Goes for the tailwind in, and it's difficult for them to dodge. Gangsta will at least convert with the ult there. That's going to be 2, actually. Again, you've got Nature with just a classic, but it's the ult doing the damage. That's the leg shot angle from Moose. Getting up on top of Sign, making it very difficult. And it's now down to 2 yet again. Now, there is Viper ult available, but it seems like an unlikely time to pop it. And given that you've still got that op in play, you're going to see Chemicals back off from this one. Nature does, I think, switch out to the Sheriff that was picked up off of his teammate's body. That would be Gangsta, who died and doesn't even really get a chance to fire. Flying off the rafters, gets dropped by a Proto. So Chemicals again will hold on to that op, but we were praising this team in LG and in IMT as well, for that matter, for being able to neutralize the op threats by utilizing skills, not necessarily taking a direct one-to-one op battle. And LG right now is kind of illustrating that.
Yeah, and right now for LG, it's because they never really had to be in a situation where they wanted to buy an operator yet, right? Because you had Thief on Bulldogs before, then another round he had Blade Storms. Now that he does have that money, he still decides to go for a rifle, so they want to go for this type of like execution. You see that when it went into the A side, the Frost Orbs that came out, we also had the paint shells that were thrown towards that truck side. With that Omen, they have that Paranoia on the left side of the 410 that they could throw towards screens, so they want to utilize somebody like Thief that could maybe dash into that A tower, and he's going to be that person that's going to take over that A tower side to watch towards screens and a spawn side, with also help from potentially Moose on the top of 410. So they'll have a lot of height control, some height advantage versus their opponents on a retake, and it works out very well. I like this one too, actually. This is a newer one to have an ult on the top of the pipes, which should cover top of pipes and even the bottom of the floor. So that makes a little bit things a little bit more difficult for LG to try to take over this A side. And as you see it from this overhead view, they have absolutely no visibility here for LG, with the exception of 2 of their teammates that they see their bodies on the ground.
I like that play too, with Lorena on site, getting up over top of that wall. Now, Nature's taken out, and that's going to be difficult. Moose hitting his stride here. 2 kills coming in for their Sova. The recon dart's going to go down, and now the ult's going to get popped. They have to be careful as there's a flank coming in from Chemicals. You can see those pulses coming out from the ult. It doesn't result in a kill, but they have to worry about Chemicals, who's now on the flank. It's the worst possible gun to have on the flank, and it might be a kill for Stellar, but Chemicals gets the read, spots Stellar out around the corner, sees one more as the smoke comes through. Paranoia is in, but it's off the mark. Chemicals has now found 3 on the round. It was all up to Moose, but at that point the damage was dealt. 5-1, Immortals finally get themselves on the scoreboard.
I told you guys about the timing of Chemicals, right? With an op of all things, he's still able to find that timing in those kills. It was a little bit of a slow reaction for Stellar on that fight when he finally saw Chemicals, but he did land a very nice one versus your boy Dre that finally helps Immortals put their first point on the scoreboard. But that's off the ult of Nature, the Viper's Pit, that really allowed Immortals to gain that success towards the A site. I also question myself all the time too with the Viper's Pit. What would be a good spot to actually put it down? Because I haven't watched enough of, for example, Nbox when Poach was playing on that Viper as well. But to see how good it is on the top of the A pipes to fully cover any type of entries on the main side of A is so good right now for Immortals, and LG has to be prepared for that going into the future. Yes, they took him down eventually, but they still lost 2 players at the beginning of the round in that process. But nonetheless, you have 5 rounds in a row for LG. The money is still healthy. They're still lurking around towards this A side just to try to see if there's going to be any early aggression from the defender side. But it's just them holding out. You see the Owl drone that went out, the boom bot that also went out towards B. So you are making a little bit of noise here towards this B side that forces the rotation from LG, the Sage moving over to that side. And we're looking to potentially have another split into B. I'm assuming here at this point, a 4-man explosion and a late lurk from Thief again under tube.
They're going to have to deal with Chemicals right now, who has some verticality with that op. Nice shot downward onto a Proto. That's an early pick, and is even staring back towards low side tube, just in case you do see that lurk come through. Trying to take out the wall, but doesn't do it fast enough. JC Stanley desperately wants to peek to try and stop this spike plant from happening, but surrenders it. In the meantime, Thief finally comes through from sub-tube. Gets dropped by the Reyna for IMT, excuse me, who was up in kitchen. Now, Moose is pretty far away. Looks like Moose is going for a long wrap to try and come back underneath tube. You've got Chemicals, who's still a nuisance on the site. And now you worry, is Moose's flank going to come through in time? The spike is planted wide for him, but is the wall still down? Here the shots come through, and at this point, the play is completely isolated. Shot up, picked off a player backside yellow, and JC Standing will find the final elimination on the round. It'll be IMT now getting 2 rounds in a row over LG. It is important to note, too, the last time these two teams faced off against each other, Immortals won the map, but didn't do so hot on the defensive side. They lost that first half 8-4, so they still brought it back and won 13-11. So don't be surprised if we see a lot of rounds pile up for LG, and then IMT starts to bring it back a little bit.
Yeah, I remember looking at stats and trying to see like some of the teams that always play enough Icebox to know a little bit of their win rates. When you look at IMT, LG, I think Sentinels is another one, and 100 Thieves, they're pretty much 50-50 on the attack and on the defense. The only team that I see a lot more dominance on the attacker side is Nbox. So that said, when people are saying that it's a little bit more attacker side, it's normal to see an 8-4. That is also very normal right now for LG and Immortals that are around that 56% on their win rate on the attack. So we could potentially see, like you said here, Bach, the attacker side for Immortals might be stepping up, but getting 2 rounds out of 7 so far on the defense is still a great start, especially now that Chemicals does have that operator. On that previous round, they didn't have that cloud burst that holds towards that ground. It's exactly the way it's placed right now, just on the ledge, so it becomes a one-way. The feet will be spotted for people trying to run across from that long B, but there's no operator there at this time. Chemicals is holding towards A. This is a great advantage for LG to rerun that same strat, but here's what I'm talking about. The snake bite, and then you have the wall to be immediately broken, and they're just going to try to spray it down, but the shock darts also is going to hit the first kill. The spike has been planted, but Stellar dies in the process. It's still a 4-on-4 with the spike planted.
Sprays coming through. The ult's been utilized. That showstopper, though, not really going to catch much as the retake is underway from IMT. JC Stanley able to move all the way up to yellow, but the ice down in that position makes it difficult, but somehow they still managed to make it work. Your boy Dre, though, from backside yellow almost had an opportunity as he found a 4th. Chemicals saves the day with the Blade Storm. But a very scary round for IMT as it almost worked out for LG off the back of a heroic performance from a player whose position was well known in your boy Dre. That said, the buy is not going to be too bad for Chemicals and company because you do have that money built up for Chemicals. He should actually drop a weapon over to JC Stanny. There's the request and the purchase. So they will have a full buy. They'll still have the op in play as well since Chemicals saved it. But it definitely is a way for LG to make sure they keep IMT on the breaking point.
Very nice try by your boy Dre, at least, though. It is a 3-man spray, almost a 2-man spray for the 2 guys running on the right side of Yellow to get that ace clutch in the end. But it seems as though for LG, they read that very well. You had the soul orbs that were thrown on the ground by Yellow, but Chemicals and the rest of company of Immortals just continue to bunny hop through it to get those close range battle victories against LG. But as we do have good money for both of these teams again, I did see that for Gangsta and for Moose, they're very close here for the ultimate, only being 2 orbs away, but they're not focusing on that right now. They just need to try to squeak through and try to fight against at least Shut Up, and they take him down. And Chemicals, long range battle versus Thief on the top of Pipe rather, manages to secure that kill for LG. So Chemicals falls, we have a 4-on-2. The spike plan is going to be safe in the front between 410 and the front A site. And a Proto is going to be on that flank, leaving Nature on his own.
That is about as clean a take as you can get. My goodness. LG just obliterate Immortals' A-side defense. They almost make it look easy. And you look at the last couple of rounds going towards B, and you start to wonder, maybe we should just stick towards A a little bit. And in fact, that's something we've seen from a lot of teams is B is not typically a site you see frequent executes to. A lot of times you'll see a lurk on B, but typically you'll see a heavy presence towards the A site. I do like seeing teams' creativity on that B site to see how they're going to try and crack in with those mid splits through Tube and Kitchen. But I would expect to see a lot of what we're seeing right here. Moose using the Owl drone to try to get some intel over on the B site. I like this setup from Chemicals. It doesn't work. He's forced to check too many spots, looking on top of the box as well. But look at the hefty presence on B off the back of the Owl drone that came in from Moose and that spot in mid. They're anticipating a B hit here, and that is going to backfire as it puts Shot Up all alone on the A site.
Yeah, and the Owl drone finally clears out the garage side in long B, but there's only the Sage Heads rotating back JC Steiny to help Shot Up, and Shot Up only has a stinger, and we ult towards the back of the site. JC Steiny, though, still is able to take down your boy Dre. So it's a 5-on-4, still trying to move in for LG. It will be a successful plan, but Thief does have high ground. Inside the A tower, looking towards the rotation at Boiler. They are also fighting towards the back of the site where a Proto is throwing those paint shells. But here is where it gets deadly. Well, maybe 2 kills that were done before by Gangsta. This time it's only 1, but it's good enough for the rest of Immortals to run inside the site, leaving Moose on his own. We talked about how good he was here on this map before and how good he was yesterday. Can he clutch a 4 versus 1? He now makes it a 3 versus 1, has 2 Shark Darts, has a recon. 1 more kill for Hunter's Fury, cannot get it versus Shut Up, and it's going to be the defuse for Immortals to put the 4th on the board, and they are catching up to make this game close for the defender side of Immortals.
That's a disappointing performance there from LG in the post plan. The way they got onto the site and what they were facing off against, it seemed like it should have gone so much better for them. They lost a player back site despite having res available. Obviously, Stellar couldn't get back to them. Stellar dies, doesn't get a chance to res one of his fallen compadres. Moose tried to do what Moose could, and even had an opportunity there to get that Hunter's Fury. But just off the mark on that final kill, and the round goes the way of IMT. Even with the ult, it would have been quite difficult. They would have just tried to charge towards him and prevent him from being able to survive or do anything after the ult was popped. But again, they're going to go back to this A site, and I'm not surprised. This has been where they've had the greatest success rate with at least gaining access to the site. There's the ult being popped from Moose. First pulse off the mark. Second pulse not where it needs to be either. No damage being dealt there by Moose, and neither with Thief's ult. So that's 2 ults utilized for LG that don't produce any damage whatsoever. They get an opener off the rifle work, but they've taken some casualties on their side as well. They're down to now a 3-on-4 as the Shock Dart comes in to try and stop the plant from happening. They will secure it, and again, it's another A retake here for IMT. Thief picks off Nature through that dart cover. On the edge, you've got Chemicals spotting out a thigh, and Hope put one right into the artery to cause his opponent to bleed out. You've got Stellar now trying to move into position to try and get some verticality over these players coming through from the wall. It takes him a bit of time, and that results in his teammate's death. Shot to drop to cover up the drop audio, excuse me. Chemicals on site, last player standing. LG grab another round. They're on number 7. And we're positioned to potentially see the same halftime score the last time these two teams played on Icebox.
Yeah, it was still very good, though, although we weren't able to get any pulses for the Hunter's Fury. Good enough for Moose to actually keep JC Stani with his knife out, trying to jump around, which then allows the rest of LG to just push aggressively inside the site. Although the knives did not hit, you already had teammates right behind Thieves, such as a Proto, to go for any trades necessary. We saw battles on the right side, we saw battles on the left, so they really did a good job for LG to converge and pinch into the site. Back then on the Pulse plant, still very good with that wall and the height positioning. Like I said, that A tower is still so important, or the 410 top box are 2 important spots to try to cover that rotation. Now they're running back into the site. Look at that. We already have one player down to 1 HP, and he's also going to get melted by nature with that stinger. Now as he falls back, that's still going to have a long timer before that ult actually disappears, so he could just dance back and forth within that poison cloud of the Viper's Pit. But this is going to have to be the big flank from a Proto, but it does not convert onto JC Stani, who saw that coming from a mile away, and now they are just not getting any ground. You're talking about how they're having so much success here on the A side here, Bach, but that's twice where they're just going to eagerly walk into the Viper's Pit and die to it, or find any battles around it and still lose it. I still believe that their B hit is quite strong, though, because the wall is good. They get the plant. I think what's most important that hasn't been that hasn't helped them to convert the rounds into B is to have any successful lurks from Thief on that mid side, where teams like, for example, 100 Thieves, how good Steel is with the lurk towards mid, converges into those victories, into those points on their attacker side on B. We need a little bit more of that here for LG, but that's too late. It's 7-5 onto the half. The sides have been switched, and we'll see what happens after the break.
An interesting first half that kind of echoes what we saw previously. Very close, with LG having a controlling lead on that attacking side. You had mentioned, though, in the pregame how the Viper change might be influential, and it was. When we would see that Viper pit on the A site, it was very difficult for LG to deal with, which resulted in some rounds for IMT. Here in the pistol round, they're going to go to the A site as well. The tailwind doesn't result in an escape for Chemicals, but it's okay as support arrives in time. So the spike will be planted. That nade could be right on the money, but not quick enough. The Sage able to escape as JC Stani runs away and gets the heal in as well. It will be a 3-on-2. We'll see again that Viper utility showing its value as that Venom is going to go on the ground, slowing down the possibility for a defuse inside the smoke. You've got one. A second target is there as well. It's down to a one-on-one. No heal here for Stellar. Both players very low. Gangsta seems to know there's one up top. It's all about timing. Spots one as he goes towards the ropes. It's all about positioning and timing right now. He's going to try and fly his way out, but Gangsta says no way. It's skeet shooting practice for IMT as they pick up the pistol round.
That is such a good 1-versus-1 from both of those players, man. Just trying to figure out where they are exactly on the map, the shots that are missed, the gambles of and the mind games of where they could be found. But it's going to be Gangsta that's going to take the upper hand. But this is off the back of Chemicals. Yes, the tailburst kind of missed, but it was actually to dodge all the bullets coming in from Thief at the same time too, the tailwind rather. But it still works out in the end here for Immortals to play very aggressively into the A side. We talk about very similar play styles between Immortals and LG at the same time, and we see how fast-paced these rounds could get. Although this is a closer matchup, we're close to having a 7-7 with Immortals taking the upper hand with the weaponry. It could still be a very fast matchup on this first map just due to how these two teams play. And it's always going to be that wall moving forward that allows for you to move into the site. They probably have a cloud burst that they want to throw into the top of the tower, but it's too late. Nature already falls from the hands of your boy Dre. Shock darts to push him off of his location, but we already have a rotation from the rest of LG in the back of B side. Stellar with the Marshall. He's still on that old patch, so it's not going to have that new update that they have for that rifle, but it's still going to be from Snowman trying to pop him down. The spike has been planted. 3 players moving forward. That is going to be a Proto in the face of JC Stanley, but shuts up 2. Now inside that smoke, he goes for the hat trick. Last one to go is going to be Stellar falling down with that Marshall. And it looks so good on that initial hold, but Immortals still put their foot on the ground and ties up the tally.
You saw the power of the Stinger come through as we saw an early kill for your boy Dre on the attempted push. They lost Nature on the take, which definitely hurts because that's the only thing they have besides Chemicals cloud bursts that can section off territory similar to a smoke. You've obviously got the Venomous Orb, you've got that Toxic Wall as well, but you don't have smokes, you don't have an Omen, you don't have a Brim, you don't have a Cypher, which obviously we don't expect to see a whole lot of on this map, and when we have, it hasn't been super successful. But losing that could have made that so much more difficult here. But it's back to the Stingers yet again. Your boy Dre is going to be playing on the other side of yellow, and they didn't spot that position out. Can your boy Dre maybe convert this into something to go for the peak? Double dinks come through, but it's not enough. You've got the self-heal for Shot Up, and the Sage also capable of that self-heal. Timing might be influential here for a Proto. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. The spin back from Chemicals, and you know that a Proto is frustrated on that one.
Oh, yeah. Does Chemicals play with, like, 21 sensitivity? Because that is so fast. I've seen people play with fast sensitivities like that. I'm thinking about Entity, actually, that works on his game, that in his pro days was playing a super high sensitivity in Call of Duty 4 and Counter-Strike 1.6, but that is so hard to control, at least for my boomer hands. But Chemicals puts that into fruition to exactly get that kill on that flank onto a Proto, where you saw that a Proto was taking his time to try to line that up and get that kill, but just unfortunately it doesn't pay off, and that also results into Chemicals getting 2 more kills at the end of the round to not allow LG to get any of those kills. Nothing but what we call unlucky, I guess, in that previous round, especially with those 2 dinks from your boy Dre at yellow. So it's a very tough one. Although I do like what Immortals are doing a lot towards this mid side. They always had that set toxic screen or toxic cloud, sorry, that's thrown just by the tube, so they could decide to go for these lurks back and forth. They haven't done it so far in this whole half, but there could be that one round where they're going to use it that's going to totally backstab LG at this point. And we talked about how good they are on the attack. Well, that's 3 rounds in a row already, and that is the lead. Now we have the spike being planted towards the A side, and LG attempts to go for the retake.
You hear a lot of knives coming out, but not much landing. So the Blade Storm not really producing the success one would hope for. Nature with a quick shot coming out, though, onto the counterpart Jet, and that Lear works out quite nicely. There's going to be a res even coming in as a Proto tries to get into a better position. LG is getting flattened on this attempted retake. All 5 players survive after the res comes through to bring them back to full strength. IMT have really stepped on the gas pedal here in this second half. But to be fair, this is exactly what we saw from LG in the first half. They won 5 rounds straight before IMT finally woke up and got something together. The fear, though, is in this instance, it would mean double-digit rounds for IMT before LG can finally come in with some strong buys to potentially stop it. And I'm concerned because these rounds haven't looked particularly close, whereas maybe we saw one or two like that in that first half for IMT. We'll see. Ult does get utilized by Thief to try to get aggressive with the Blade Storm. But in this instance, we are going to see presence towards B. They do have to worry about their Jet currently playing a lurk role over on the A site. They haven't dedicated to B either. Even though there was resources there early on, they didn't push beyond early long B. They're just kind of hanging back right now, waiting for that aggressive play to come in, knowing that this ult was popped, and they're likely going to try to use that to gain space.
The lurk from Chemical is still going to continue to be good here. He's watching out towards that mid rotate at the same time, but he doesn't look like he's going to be in a position where he's going to push forward and be that lead flank. He's just going to be a flank watcher, knowing that a couple of rounds ago, A Proto was trying to go for that flank before. But A Proto is currently playing towards B. That Boombot's already out. He was spotted, but he spotted a few as well. That's going to be the call for the rotation for LG at the same time, and he's trying to slow it down. Pain shells that rains towards the air. He does get the wallbang headshot onto JC Stani, but the spike has just been planted. He does have a showstopper, though. They don't have that much to work with. We saw a stinger before from your boy Dre. We do see another stinger now in the hands of Stellar, and only a sheriff and a showstopper is going to have to be a big kill coming in. And here it comes, and it does land onto Nature, but he falls at the same time. So it evens up the tally on a 3 versus 3. Immortals pushing forward on top of that. The right clicks of the Blade Storm misses. This trades on the back from Moose's flank, now to a 1 versus 1. Chemicals is trying to fight this battle as the wall is up, and he goes for the jumping classic from Moose, but Chemicals is the one that's going to clutch it and win it in the end. And that's going to put 5 rounds on the board for Immortals. That was a crucial round that was almost won for LG, but their morale stays shattered on the second half.
This is incredible, too, because if you watch that play break down, he ends up swapping the Stinger for another one that was on the ground. It had 6 bullets in it. Can't go for the reload. Has to stick with the Classic. The Classic, also low on ammo, had enough for 2 bursts and ends up hitting it on the second one. So ultimately, Chemicals comes out on top. He's the savior yet again for IMT. That was a solid round, all things considered, for LG. This is where they need to put the brakes on this attacking side for IMT. They need to find a round win here. They have everything they need. They've got Res available. They've got From the Shadows, and they've got Hunter's Fury as well. So Moose trying to section off B early on, sends out those pulses and forces them to funnel into this A site where you would hope to find a little bit more success for LG, but it doesn't go that way. One initial kill, and then the entries go the direction of IMT. So now they have the spike down. They too have the Blade Storm available for their Jet in Chemicals, who doesn't even need it. Chemicals has found every kill on the round, finally gets his rampage ended at 3. And it comes down to a 2-on-3, make it a 1-on-3. There's one player on site, it's Moose. We praised him for the way that he's grown as a player, but ultimately, there's just too much on the other side. 11 rounds for IMT as LG continues to struggle in this second half.
Yeah, and the idea of Moose throwing that Hunter's Fury super early too is because they potentially heard the Owl drone on that B side. So it's not only to section off, but maybe to still try to catch Gangsta into the middle of his drone and hopefully make it a 5-on-4. But you called it here, Buck. They funneled everybody back towards the A side, when on top of that, no kills also means better information, knowing that nobody's playing towards that B side. So they stacked, they rotated fast, but Immortals, when they keep holding that W key into the site and they're just covering the angles with the high sensitivity like Chemicals, for example, to clear out the corners, it's so hard for LG to hold this right now, even if they have some great crossfire setups. They need a little bit more. I think the utilities right now from Raze could help a little bit, but at this point, it's going to be your boy Dre at least getting the first kill, the first blood into this round, breaks the wall, and is going to try to bring things up as the res comes out, and he cannot get the... Oh, actually, he does! He does get 2 before he dies, and that is good enough for LG on the attempt of a retake on a 4 versus 2.
There's a wall coming in as well, but the section's broken down on top of the spike, but the retake comes through. It looked pretty good there for IMT. Now, they lose one player on the push, but when the plant comes in, that gives enough points to their Sage to get a res and bring that player back. Your boy Dre knows that there's an opportunity to punish, goes for a wide swing, and somehow converts on a double, a 2-for-1. as he found 3 kills on the round, one of which he already had taken down earlier in it. But you can see that spray down initially. There's the first kill, and then when the wall got broken, he came through and somehow lines up a double. I think it was an errant bullet that actually hits the other target. It was totally accidental.
He was aiming
for
he was aiming for a shut up, and somehow it glided out into the face of JC Standing at the same time. And when I saw that spray with no bullets, like the bullets counting down and no kills, like there's no way that he's gonna get like more than 1. But somehow he still gets 2 on top of that with that stray bullet. Like he's like wanted in that movie. So well done. LG survives that round. It's 11-8 in favor of Immortals, but with the amount of rounds that you've won in a row here for Immortals, you're still looking very good for the round. Maybe not health-wise. Somehow, Chemicals at the beginning of this round already has 2 HP.
Spike planted.
Another plant coming in for IMT. You mentioned it. Chemicals low on HP. There's the ult pop from Shot Up. That'll make that fire rate go through the roof. As Moose tries to use the drone to spot out players, that Shot Up actually taking one to the dome from Stellar from distance. Your boy Dre again with a heroic performance here on the B site. That's now 2 kills for your boy Dre. They know that Chemicals is still going to be moving into position from mid, and it's all up to Gangsta. Gangsta somehow steps up and finds 2 before being isolated and taken out. LG are not surrendering that 12th point to IMT. There's still some fight left in them. It just took them longer to wake up. When you look at this from round 5 until the last 2 rounds, it was 11-2. It's an 11-4 run currently for IMT, which is still incredibly impressive. But because of that bulk of rounds that LG was able to pick up in that first half to kick things off, they still can keep it close despite that long streak.
I also love that Stellar's drone was pretty much a third cameraman to help out V-Flight and First Knights of Knee, our cameraman for this matchup. As he's just flying around, as he tags or sees an opponent, you just see them dying right in front of the camera. So very nice live action shoulder cam, I guess you could put it at that point, to allow LG to get this 11-9 on this retake that they had towards the site. Which, by the way, I've noticed that so far when Stellar's playing towards that back of the site at Snowman, or sorry, it was the drone from Moose, sorry, to get those kills, to spot those kills. But when Stellar's playing towards the back of the Snowman, from time to time you see the wall get popped up and he looks down towards Long B, but he hasn't really done that into this matchup yet because they see how important this wall is on that retake on that B side, which is also why you don't see a wall coming out early towards that tubes for LG. So they're really using it for the retakes. And the retakes, it's going to be attempted towards the A side once again, but so far it doesn't need to be a retake. They drop 2 kills, almost a third, finally connects with the trade-off from Thief onto JC Stani as your boy Dre falls. Now Thief makes it a 4 versus 1, and we're finally coming back into this game. We're 1 point away of tying things up here for LG, unless Gangsta gets more than that, but he gets stopped here by Thief, and we do get that 10th point on the board for LG.
And what this should do to the economy here, this should put them in a rough spot. No, they've still got enough money left to buy, even though 1 or 2 players will be a little bit light. So this is still a strong buy coming in for IMT despite everything. We should see the rest of the team buy here in a second. It looks like they've called for a tactical pause. So we do see a pause coming through as I think they're talking things over, trying to figure out what it is they want to do. As you've got Chemicals currently sitting in spawn. Hopefully it's tactical and not technical, because you really hate to see that when that one comes through. You never really know, especially at a point like this in the game when things are really starting to hit that crucial point. We knew that this map was going to be close, but we maybe anticipated a different way for it to play out. We thought maybe it would have been a more back and forth affair. But again, when you look at the last time these two teams played in the first closed qualifier, despite the fact that IMT has obviously changed their agent pool, utilizing a Viper instead of a Killjoy, one of the things that we noticed was that there was kind of a streaky nature to that map, with LG coming out swinging on the attacking side, taking the half 8-4. Here it was 7-5. But it was IMT who turned things on at the tail end of that first half and carried that into the second half with an insane run. Again, 11-2 from round 5 in favor of IMT before we finally saw LG get back on the scoreboard again.
Yeah, and you're just trying to figure out what right now, if you're trying to analyze this on the spot, what has been the winning victory here for LG, and you see how fast it is when they're retaking the sites. It could go either way. So far, we've seen rounds where it pretty much came down to a lot of 1 versus 1s. So the trades continues to be very good for Immortals in LG, something that we really praised a lot at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, when you started seeing these victories from Immortals and LG versus the teams like 100 Thieves and Sentinels. So to see them now continue to play that same type of playstyle and still be able to trade it off, very normal to see the 1 versus 1, but it still swings in favor of Immortals. I don't think any of these teams are playing a bad game right now. They're reading each other perfectly. Look at that. It's like, hey, they're working towards B, let's throw a Frost Orb towards their ground. But they're also doing the same thing for LG towards the spawn side. And now they're going back and forth, rotating back on the A side for Immortals. Soon but surely, we're going to have the rotation coming back from LG as well. But as it stays calm, they're going to run into a surprise here for LG, as they don't have the man advantage to try to hold this site. It's all down to Thief and to A Proto.
There's the Leer coming in to try and make it a little bit more difficult for Thief in this position. Sees one trying to go up. Here's that Jet fly in. Goes to the knives, but no, misses the right click. And now that puts a lot of pressure on the remaining players on site. Moose has to pop off and go big. Does drop the spike carrier, and you've still got players coming in here. It's all down to Gangsta, who's up in top tube. It's down to the 1v1, trying to spot that headshot angle. Has to fall down, only has 3 bullets remaining, and ultimately will lose the one-on-one against Stellar, who can even come through with an econ res if wanted to, but no econ res coming in. Now, the one thing I have to ask, we talked about it in the first half, right? The power of that Viper ult on the A site, how good it was, how viable it ended up being. People love Lockdown and the retakes that you can do with Killjoy, but on the attacking side, it's also so incredibly strong to keep people away from the site, so you can almost get a free take. How do they utilize Viper's Pit here on the attacking side? Because it seems like they've just kind of sat on it and haven't really been able to do anything with it.
Exactly, and they had... You probably want to keep it for the pulse plants right now, especially towards a B side hit. You try to leave a little bit of a lanes on the left side and the right side by yellow, so that people that are holding them back towards green could actually bring those type of fights in. We saw that when Immortals played yesterday, but aside from that, you don't see it more towards the A side, which is why now at 11-11, this might be the round they're going to do it. And there you go. That Viper Pit comes out. It's going to have a gap here towards that right side. You're going to have them play towards the back of the site too, at the green hallway, in the green, or the green lanes rather. And we'll see now if LG could retake the site.
The way that this works with it coming up on the other side of yellow makes it really difficult for them to deal with Nature's position. There's a res coming through. Hunter's Fury being popped from the other side. Good damage being dealt, looking for that third pulse. Not able to get it. You've got Thief currently on the lurk. Oh, very close, but no! Gangsta somehow wins the one-on-one. You've got Nature playing outside that Viper's Pit. They finally take down the Viper inside of it, so that smoke's gonna fall. And now it comes down to this. It's a one-on-one. Your boy Dre playing on the other side has to swipe the rifle out, but again, like you said, no time. Gangsta's even gonna die to the spike. Sure, IMT finds round number 12. But what did it cost? What's their money gonna look like coming into this final round? It's not too pretty. You got 2 players who are gonna be struggling to field a buy, and one of them is Chemicals. The other one is JC Stanny, the Sage.
You would have thought, or you would imagine what the round would look like if they actually did get the backstep onto Gangsta, because when we had that 1 versus 1 at the end, it was Gangsta that was alive. So that was the most crucial kill that you needed to come in for Thief on that flank to try to pinch in towards those people towards yellow. But unfortunately, that's what, 3 times that we tried to have a flank here towards LG, and it's not Chemicals. It's going to be somebody else that's going to be able to watch and turn around and expect that flank, and they're winning those battles. Gangster being the one on that previous round, and that's going to hurt things up. And speaking of people being hurt, both of the Jets are actually low on HP. One is going to get healed, and that is going to be Chemicals. So we did try to have an early battle towards mid, but it's still going to be a 5 versus 5 now, as both heals are now out. Back towards the B side. This time there's no ult from the Viper's Pit, so it could still be a retakeable round here for LG, although we do have a res available for a pulse plan for Immortals, so the odds are in their favor. Can they actually hold it down for Immortals to win this first map? Let's find out here, Bach.
That was a big kill as well. Finally, the ult, no, the flank doesn't work out. I thought the flank was going to come through. So you have the ult, you have the res available, but they lost Empress in the process. Gangsta dropping off the bins, able to find 2 kills on the round as they continue to come through on the flank. They weren't prepared for it. The second player, like you mentioned, we are going to overtime as LG managed to keep themselves in the game despite the impressive run from IMT to take control of the scoreboard. They kept themselves in it. And sure, We're going to
Switching
OT.
sides.
Why not? This is what
Overtime.
Icebox is. I feel like we have not casted an Icebox almost that didn't have the risk of going into overtime or did go into overtime.
Yeah, it's only, I think, when like the game first came out, or the map first came out, rather, where a lot of the matches for Sentinels went into this overtime battle because nobody really knew how to play. But now, as you're getting a little bit more out of this for these teams, it's just nice to see finally a good overtime in a matchup that matters. Mind you, again in this series, whoever wins this one gets to qualify into Masters. And we also talk about the tenacity of these two teams. I've talked about it at least, where they don't mind trailing from behind, and it would always be a close game in the end. And LG definitely brought this back to make it a very spicy first map.
That missed kill from a Proto gave me a little palpitations there, because we've seen that happen for LG when they would try to come through on these flanks.
Yep.
They would miss the mark. Going back to what a round prior when Thief is coming through on the flank, Gangsta is ulting. Why doesn't Thief just hold W? Like, I'm looking at that, he's walking up on the flank. I don't know how long he got into that position. It's possible he got there as the ult ended. I didn't see. But like, you just look at that play out and you just have so many questions. Here, we do have the op purchase early. Chemicals is going to be armorless as a result, as you don't get enough cash to buy out anything other than that op. Shot up, somehow able to convert on two, goes for the dismiss to get away out of that position. Moose from on high, getting 2 executions as they go for the take. The whiff, though, how? Shut up, able to survive a little while longer. It's a bloody brawl on the A site. IMT take control of this first round from the side that they struggled on more, the defense.
Shot Up was basically dancing around this whole A site all the time. That's 1-2 dismisses, just doing a very good job to hold down those angles, those do or die positions. And you see it from LG. They swung 3 players ready for trades, so they are still setting up for this aggression for the trade play. But when you're playing against a Reyna like that and you can't stop him and Shot Up continues to land those shots like that, it does get a little bit difficult for somebody like Moose, for example, that's going to try to get that kill right after, trying to figure out where Shot Up could be after the dismiss. He hears the audio, but probably doesn't have a chance to be able to put the crosshair at the right place to get the kill. So now, yes, Immortals, as they were struggling on the defender side, they finally, yeah, exactly, they get that round, and it comes down to a map point for Immortals as LG will try to even things up now, their turn on the defender side.
Thief tried to float onto pipes, but saw the people coming, heard the footsteps as well. They're going to try to take out this wall. They get there just in time to take down the spike. Thief escapes and doesn't have to worry about the Reyna, who is waiting around the corner. Now, Shot Up does eventually get 3 on the round because of course he does. But it's down to 1. It's Nature. The Venom goes down on the ground to try to make it harder. Nature's spotted out. They're going to go for the double peek. Double overtime incoming.
This is where it's getting scary, Bach, because Shut Up is starting to wake up. And when Shut Up is on fire, he starts to become unstoppable. That is 2 rounds in a row where he pretty much carried in the fragging department for his team. 2 rounds where he had a 3K, pretty much to give the chances for Immortals to try to get these rounds in the end. But if it's not for him, it's again down to those 1 versus 1s. It still stays pretty close for both of these teams, and now it's starting to get really exciting. You really want to know who's going to move forward right now. Who are you rooting for so far, actually, if you're a fan of Immortals or LG? I'm just rooting for how close and exciting this first map is.
You know, we talked about Moose, too, saying like, oh, Moose's performance has been so incredible on this map. Looking at some of the previous series he played, like the one against 100 Thieves. Look at Gangsta. Gangsta in the top position, a player that I don't think we would have necessarily picked out of the pack to be that strong performer. He's had so many big rounds for IMT. So we run round again. Again, you got to win 2 for anyone that's unfamiliar. You start with 5K. You reset your points to half. 5K gives you enough for an op purchase and nothing else. You are bare bones with that op. Here we've got Nature playing B-side defense. The boom bot's actually going to allow him to hang out in this position. He might be calling for some support, but it's actually going to be an A play. They are biting on this so hard. 4 players have pulled off because of the utility. The slow orb came through. The boom bot's there as well. It's now all up to Chemicals. You're putting faith in your anchored jet. It's going to come down to this exact... The first shot's right where it needs to be. So he'll get that kill and change positions and actually just get out of dodge. He'll surrender site control. Oh, the wall comes through. I thought he was trying to send it a different direction. but he actually walled off his teammates.
Yeah, it's a mistake for sure. You wanted to wall towards that screen. You're making it tough for yourself because now you have to cross out in the open. But thankfully, he makes it through. He gets the plant. He's out in the open and still wins the fight versus JC Stani. So that's healer down. Chemicals with the operator. Lands a second one onto Moose, but he's traded out by Stellar. The one that makes the mistake now protects himself from his mistakes and redeems himself from his mistakes for those 2 kills. But it's still your boy Dre on his own, and Gangsta stops him. And Immortals gets another round on defense and another map point. So we haven't seen a round yet where LG was able to take the upper hand. They still have to try to claw back.
That missed wall is so punishing. First, the shot comes through from Chemicals and a follow-up as well from the rafters. But the missed wall, it was, like you said, supposed to go out a little bit deeper, but it goes too shallow, and you actually saw them destroy their own wall, which is, like, brutal, because you realize in that moment, you're like, crap, like, this is the most useful piece of utility we have with this composition.
Yep.
It really is. That wall is so incredibly good on this map. And that's what potentially allows IMT to get back into that site a little bit easier. So again, LG have to fight for another overtime.
Yeah, I also feel that you had a missed opportunity on the execution on the A side because they peeked out a little bit too early into Chemicals, where you wanted to wait for a Proto to throw those paint shells by the truck to really clear that spawn out of the area and then move more safely into the site. But the body peek, Thief was the first to fall with that.
Well, the plant coming through. As shot up, spots one going through, making this retake so much harder, and your boy Dre has been a big piece of their B-side retakes, frequently finding multi-kills, similar to an Omen from another team. Goes by the name of Nitro for 100 Thieves. A Proto, the first one trying to move in, looking for an angle, might just spot one here as the shock dart comes through. It actually hits the wall, and they can hide behind that for safety. A Proto stepping up big with Moose. The retake is working out like gangbusters. They've got it down to now 1, and the wall is in. There is nothing that can be done. We go back into OT again. There will not be an end to this game just yet.
You probably noticed that, okay, the kills were off camera, but before we actually went off camera, you saw how a Proto and Moose were kind of like dancing around that single wall that was still up. Kind of like just hugging a tree and defending that tree for their dear life, and it turns out to be the most crucial point in the obstacle to be able to get those kills, because you saw the slow jiggle peek that came out from a Proto. He's trying to fight towards that green side, and they're going back and forth. And finally, when the Owl Drone came out, or the Recon or whatever, he's like, oh crap, there's actually people about to swing. He dances around that pillar, has help from his teammate, and they're able to drop 3 kills right away to actually make this look like it was going to be an Immortals victory with their boy Dre dying early into the round. But now, the first one to die is Immortals. Finally, LG has an advantage and something in this map, and that is a 1-minute advantage. As they hold a default still towards the spawn, they throw an Owl Drone towards the A sign, and they're trying to bait out the rotation on that sign, and you already see JC Stani making his way. But look at that. The minimap, the overhead. Everybody's walking back towards the A side. It's going to be a single hold here from Nature, who does still have that one-way smoke on the right side of green, and he's focused on that left side of green for anybody that's going to try to lurk in.
And the clearest and closest person to try to offer some support is Sage, who's currently now moving into Halls, was in kitchen. The blast pack is what allows them to get past, but a Proto is dropped by JC Stani, who was up in that position. Wall's gonna come through. Your boy Dre plays on the other side and totally catches JC Stani off guard, who tried to go for a wall boost over top to try and prevent that spike from going down. And now it is a advantage for LG in the post plant, one that we haven't seen them have too many times. You've got 2 players for IMT trying to get back in. The shock dart is off the money. The follow-up shock dart isn't there either. And even shot up going for the peak against Stellar will end up dropping. It's now down to this. It's a 3-on-1. Gangsta's been so good this map, and the first kill will be his to grab. There's still 2 players that remain, but they aren't giving him anything. They aren't peeking. Able to isolate a 1v1 here. He knows where this last target is. Goes for the dart, but timing is becoming an issue. Has to go for the stick. Goes to get it halfway. Will get the kill, but doesn't actually get the spike to where he needed it. And even if he had, still wouldn't have won it. As you can see, he wasn't able to get that first half there on the follow-up anyway.
Still a nice try.
Round 15 is LG's, absolutely.
That's where it starts to get dangerous to say, look, Gangsta on the top of the board at 31. I was looking at his stats yesterday versus Gen G. He was also on the top of the board at 21 when they won against Gen G 13-6, right? So now we're looking at potentially a triple overtime where he's currently still top of the leaderboard in terms of the fragging department for Gangsta. So getting those 3 kills, despite not getting the defuse, it's still going to be a message to send to say, we're not done yet. We could still come back into this game now that they take the attacker side. But in the end, though, that biggest kill, the most important one, was definitely your boy Dre, pushing aggressively on that wall, catching JC Stunning of Immortals off guard, and getting that kill for the control towards Orange. And speaking about advantage and map control, Thief pushed forward towards that A side to try to get an early pick. No damage is done because of the fence. He was landing on those wall, on the brim, or on the beams, rather. And it allows Immortals to fall back here as they're booking it towards this B side.
You know, when they played each other last time as well, Gangsta was a top performer in that. When they played on Icebox, it was a 13-11 victory that time, though, for IMT. They were able to close things out in regulation. This time, obviously struggling. Heavy presence towards B long right now. No flank coming in this time. Everyone coming in through mid and from Snowman. Can IMT hold? Will we continue here in overtime? This is just the first map of the series. A Proto will spot out Shot Up as they tap the spike to try and bait out the remaining positions of these players. You've got your boy Dre playing on the other side of this wall. That's down. This wall is huge. They have to break through it. They're trying to get there to stop this defuse from happening. They've already got it to halfway, and they're able to come through in time. But it comes down to one remaining player. It's Stellar. It will be LG taking map 1, 16-14.
Defenders win.
Oh, that is one way to start this series, 16-14 in overtime, and that was a chaotic take on that last round. A retake from LG, the deep wall from Stellar, and you saw just floating above in the air, it's Thief just on the top of that wall, and how aggressively they push from your boy Dre on the right side, a Proto on the support. You saw the utility was thrown a little bit too far towards that yellow side where Immortals still had positional advantage, but it comes down to those trades. The way that they set up for both of these teams always comes down very close. It came down to what? Another 1 versus 1 or a 2 versus 1, and it's going to be LG that takes the upper hand.
Well, we are going to go ahead and throw things to a break. If the second map is anything like the first, this series is going to be fantastic. I think we're going to end up on that third map, and we'll see if this time LG can look a little bit smoother on Bind, but first we've got to get through Ascent. We're going to go ahead and throw things to a break. When we come back, we'll see if IMT can clap back and force us to that third map or not. Stay tuned.